I have just bought the cheapest S1000Rr in the world. And now we're going to attempt to build this bike in 4 short weeks. But there's one small problem. It's a complete wreck. The BMW was the first track bike I ever bought, rebuilt and sold, and regretted every day since for selling that awesome weapon. So when the opportunity came up to get another one, and at a fraction of the price, I couldn't pass that up. A 2022 BMW S1000Rr with M-package carbon upgrades. And what a beauty she is. Even in the super wrecked form, I can just see the potential that this bike is going to look amazing in a few short weeks. Okay, so we have got some grand plans for this bike. As you probably know, it's a 2022 model, so like it's only a year old. It's only done low Ks from what I know. Every time I do one of these builds, a little part of me feels very sorry for the previous owner. Like they have probably saved up so much money to be able to afford a bike like this. Like what do these go for? $30,000, $35,000? And now look at it. And this was once someone's dream, and now it's just another one of my projects. Now granted, I'll do it justice and it'll look shit hot awesome when it's finished. But a little bit of my heart goes out to those people at the same time. So anyway, let's get into it, shall we? The battery's not even connected anymore. Okay, so first test electrical. We got the new battery connected. We've disconnected that freaking annoying alarm, so that's gonna come out. It was just this plug here, so super easy. So now let's see if our dash has any power when we turn the key on. Oh, we've got power. Perfect. Now I can hear something buzzing. I don't know if that's good. We've got, oh no, our dash is completely ruined. Have it checked by a specialist workshop. That's a really good point. We should do that. Now we're going to start stripping it down, and every piece that I take off that's salvageable, I'm going to give you the value as to what I'm going to sell it for. At the end of it, you add it all up, it's a lot of money. Okay, so it's about 9:30 at night. I'm hot, sweating. We've got about half the bike stripped down and it's coming apart really, really easily. I'm hesitant to do too much more because I want to keep it in a state where we can actually try and start the bike, maybe in this episode, maybe in the next one. And let's take a look now at everything I've taken off and start putting some prices against everything that we can sell so far. Okay, so I know it might look like a complete motley crew of parts, but the tank we're actually keeping because if you look at just here and here, this is where the actual tank mounts are still attached. So we need to find a welder who can weld these tank mounts back onto the side of the tank. So we're keeping the tank's staying. We've got a rear, whatever that's called, license plate holder. So that's actually okay. Indicator's broken on that side, but we can sell that. So that'll probably go for around about $50. The lower triple is completely kaput. That's gone. That is the worst triple I've ever seen. Look at the angle of that top head of that stem. Okay, both of these forks, I think they're both bent, but the internals of these forks, including the fork motor, everything else, is probably still worth around about $700, maybe for the two, maybe $750 for the two, even in a bent state like that. The internals alone, $250, $300. The wheel is not worth anything. It is absolutely destroyed. However, I've still got to take the rotors off and check if the rotors are flat. I very much doubt it. We've got the top tank guard. That's worth around about $70 or $80. We've got the right side fairing, lower fairing. That's actually worth around about $100. We've got the alarm, probably not worth anything, but we'll put that on $50 on eBay anyway. We've got the back fairing. It's got a few scratches, but it's in one piece. So those three pieces make up the back fairing. That's probably worth about $250. We've got the front guard, carbon guard. It's not worth anything. It's beyond repair. We've got the left side headlight. That's worth about $250 just by itself, attached with the horn. We're actually got to keep that piece there, that black piece there, because that goes around the radiator. We've got the mirrors. So these mirrors are probably worth about somewhere between $350 and $500 for that set of working mirrors. We've got the two M-carbon inlays. They are scratched, but they're probably still worth $100, as is both of the side panels. They're probably $200 for those. Probably another $200 or $300 for those extra tank side panels and the left side panel. And then that's just the parts that we've taken off it so far. So we've still got a lot to go. We've still got the exhaust has got to come off. So that exhaust will be probably somewhere in the vicinity of about $1,000, I'm going to guess. We've got the two damaged radiators. So the oil radiator, probably not worth much, but maybe $100. And the actual radiator itself, which has had a decent whack in it, again, might be worth a tiny little bit. So we'll say a couple of $100 for that. We've got the evap, that'll be worth a bit, maybe another $50, $100. We've got the left side clip-on, which I actually think is completely straight. So that's worth around about probably $280 for that left side clip-on just by itself. The right side clip-on, I think it's bent, but I could be wrong. I mean, you know what? It actually looks straight. So we're not talking about this little bit here that's attached, or that little bit there, they're obviously broken. But the clip-ons on these are just this half U round shape, and they clip straight on at the same height as the top triple. So I'm gonna guess once we put the new clip-ons on, that these two clip-ons together are probably $500 between the two, but we'll check and make sure they're straight first. We've also got the side stand. So side stand, probably another $150. We've got the rear sets, they are around about $600, $650 for both rear sets combined. And then we've got the passenger pillion pegs, which are fine on both sides. They're about another $350, $400 for both. We've got the ABS unit, that'll go for probably $150. And what else am I missing? Well, there isn't really much else, to be honest, on this bike. It's all ruined. And you're probably gonna think I'm mad, but we're actually gonna try and start the bike. So I've just taken the top off, I've taken the ECU off the top, which exposes the actual filter. So I should be able to pull the filter out Once I've got the filter out, we're going to spray a bunch of this Start Your Bastard instant engine starter directly in through the inlet, and then hopefully when we turn it over at the same time, we should get a spark and we should get the engine running for just a couple of seconds. It won't last long, and I need to be pretty prepared to turn this off in a hurry. So yeah, fingers crossed. Look at that, it looks brand new, like 1,500 kilometers, and I've got a new one, but to be honest, I probably don't even need it. Yes! We've got a running engine! Oh. How good's that? I mean, it doesn't sound good, but... Yes! That is awesome news. That means that we haven't bought a complete lemon. So, there we go, ignition off. No more playing with the trying to start the bike. That is just awesome. Absolutely awesome. So onwards and upwards now. So I guess that's a really good place to stop today's video. I couldn't be more happy. This bike is going to be insane. If you've got any suggestions about design, drop a comment below. I'm keen to hear all your thoughts. I've got some ideas as well. On the next episode, and we're gonna fly through this build, by the way. The next episode, we've got radiators, front forks, we've got a new triple coming, we've got a new exhaust. A lot of stuff is gonna get jammed into these episodes. Sorry if I fly through them too quickly. You know the drill. If you like my gear, if you like my videos, not my gear, like, subscribe, and give me a thumbs up. Until the next one, peace out. So I'm quickly starting to understand why this was the cheapest S1000Rr in the world. But sometimes you buy a bike just purely on emotion, and maybe I didn't want to see all the flaws that this bike actually had. So the original choice was a 2017 Ducati 959 Panigale that wasn't too bad, under $5,000, versus this, a 2022 model S1000Rr for pretty much the same price. Please tell me I made the right decision. Radiator's beyond fixing, battery box is buggered, brake lever's broken, fuel rail is broken. But that's okay, I'm not worried. I have a plan. So I posted my parts wish list on a local Facebook group and was lucky enough that 30 minutes drive up the road from me, a guy named Dave, this is Dave, what a legend, happened to be building the same bike. He had a full donor bike ready to go, heaps of parts ready for me, so we picked up a radiator, we picked up a new brake lever, red guards, and a whole bunch of other small things, including that battery box that I need. Now let's get it installed. Rad guards, radiator, battery box, new front guard, brake lever. And a care package from the UK also arrived today. Oil cooler, forks, straight, a Black Widow headers exhaust system. So now we can crack on with actually building the front of this bike. We've got most of the things we need except a front wheel. And fingers crossed by the end of this episode, the bike will start to reveal its actual value. So first up, clutch cable had to come off, which happened to be bent. And then the pipes for the radiators, both the top and the bottom pipes. Bottom pipes weren't that easy, to be honest. And typical me, I always make a mess. Nothing a quick rag won't fix.
It's always good to label everything that you take off, just in case you need to reattach it, you know exactly where it goes. A few remaining nuts and bolts, and then the radiators just come straight off.
Okay, so slight problem. Because this exhaust is all one piece the whole way through, I actually can't get it out without jacking up the bike from the front here. So I need to, I don't have the triple tree yet, that's supposed to arrive today. So I can't put the forks on, which means I can't put a wheel on to hold the front of the bike up so that the exhaust can drop straight down. So I'm gonna have to go and get like a log of wood or something and jack the bike up from here in order to be able to drop that exhaust straight down and off, because it can't go either side of the bottom of the engine when I've got the mount, the jack underneath the engine just here. So just another small problem I'm gonna have to try and solve. Okay, well that didn't work, I just didn't trust it. Plan B.
And plan B just happened to be donuts. So because the exhaust goes either side of the sump, you've actually got to lower it down and pull it out to the side. You can't take it apart in pieces. And lucky for me with the Black Widow exhaust, it's all labeled 1, 2, 3, 4. So you just line it all up, put it together, and then just slide it straight on.
Okay, exhaust done. Let's check it out. Okay, so if you can tell by my t-shirt, it is hot and sweaty. We're gonna move on to the radiators now, get the radiators done. And then fingers crossed we'll get another package arrive today. If not, at least we'll have most of the front of the bike together. Obviously other than the forks and the wheel, but yeah, let's crack on.
The hardest part here is getting everything out of the way to push these radiators up and into place. But once they're in place, it's super easy. Just 4 bolts basically holds all the radiators together.
Three t-shirts later, and we've finally got the front of the bike looking the way it was supposed to look. How good does that look? I mean, it's even got the Evotech radiator guards on it now. I've just got to put the top on there. We do have a slight issue with this overflow pipe, and that it's got the old broken off pipe into it, so I've got to try and figure out how to get that out. I might just take the whole pipe off, put it in hot water, and then see if I can pull the old end out before I secure that in place and tighten that up. We've got all the lines running where they should, brake lines running down the center. We've got the clutch line running down through there. We've got all the sensors back in place. The only thing we haven't done is the front fork sensor. So that'll go on when the forks go back on. Wow, I mean, what a day. So we've done
Full radiators, both of them, and we've done a complete exhaust, so a complete header system, stainless steel header system from Black Widow. Awesome. So lucky for us, our package from Robbie Moto, so from Omnia Racing in Italy. This is a Robbie Moto top triple. This is the bottom triple. How awesome does that look? I mean, that's a meaty piece. All the fixtures and fittings, bolts, the stem, the sleeve, and then the 1-inch riser or 22mm riser handlebars. So they're going on as well. But before we put any of that on, we need to look at what's actually left from the original triple that we can salvage, and it's not much because the top plate is okay. It's identical to the bottom plate, so we could only get one of these, so we're gonna have to order another plate. We could only get one bearing from BMW in stock, and we could get 2 replacement top nuts, but we're probably still gonna have to order a few little bits and pieces, some spacers, maybe a new top bearing, because the top bearing itself, pretty sure I'm missing the runner for the top. Oh no, there it is there. Oh, we might be all right. So we are gonna try and put this together now and then see if we can get the new forks onto the bike as well, and then have a mostly functioning front end. So that would be a pretty awesome milestone. So a couple more donuts for Moto Garage, and we borrowed the press, got the bearings put on easily. Okay, so because we've still got to actually replace this top piece here, I'm just going to put it together sort of hand tight for now, because we're going to have to take it apart anyway to replace this top piece. So we'll just go sort of hand tight. We will put all the parts back on though, the way they're supposed to be. So next up is a spacer, which is also damaged, so I need a new one of them. And then the second nut. And then a little lock nut, which holds it all in place. Like so. And then we can put our top triple on. Just like that. Okay, so I am so happy. I'm surprised. I didn't think we'd get this far in just such a short amount of time, but we actually have a front wheel, front forks, new triple, all mocked up. Still needs to be pulled apart and adjusted. We need a new front wheel as well. But wow, this bike is really starting to surprise me. We've got a new radiator, we've got a new oil cooler, we've got new headers, we've got heaps more parts on the way, we've got a fairing coming next week. Stay tuned, like, subscribe, you know the drill. Peace out.
So right here, there should be this round steel metal thing that holds all the fuel. But unfortunately, 90% of it is sitting over there. And the remaining 10% is still attached to the bike. And that's not good.
But before I dive into the huge problem that is our fuel tank, or would-be fuel tank, this huge box has just arrived from Slovakia, and it has got what is gonna transform this bike from being a complete wreck into something that is actually legible. And it's the fairing. It's everything that you need for the fairing, including the front subframe and a really awesome, fully stitched racing seat as well, all from Profiber. So if you haven't seen their gear, I suggest you check them out at profiber.com.
So every build has a catch-22, and that's because I have got a lot of things I've got to do before I can even fit this tank and fit the fairing. But at the very least, what I'm going to try to do today is a mock-up of the fairing. And in order to do that, I've got a few of those little things I've got to fix straight away. So the first thing is I've actually got to fix this. I've got to take all of this electronics and the ABS box out of here, and I've got to replace this plastic box. So we've got a plastic box over here. So there you go, there's one plastic battery box, and that is going to go like that. So we're going to have to take all this apart and put that in. On top of that, before we can fit a fairing, the stand's got to come off because the stand won't work with the race fairing. So we'll take the stand off and we'll run a stand delete. And before we can fit this new front race frame, we actually need to drill out some of these bolts which have broken off inside the stay. So I think that must go like that, just like that there. Okay, so it looks like I'm actually going to have to undo bolts off the ABS unit to pull that off. There's 2 bolts down the bottom there. I'll take the battery out as well. And then right under the bike, I don't know if you can see, but up there is the regulator rectifier, and that's actually bolted onto the bottom of this box as well. So a small job just became a big job. Okay, so another catch-22, another problem you've got to solve before you can really solve the problem that you want to solve. Solving the problem, I've got to take the ABS module off because I can't fit it through this gap here in the new plastic piece. Reality is, race bikes don't have an ABS anyway, so I think what I'll do is I'll just shell out the cash and buy an ABS delete, get some new cables as well, and get rid of that ugly box. So at least now we've got the rear tank mount sorted. Now you can actually see, look at the damage it did when it ripped off. So you can see it's just ripped them and twisted them around. So this is what we're gonna try and weld back onto there. Now it is external to the tank, so hopefully I'll find someone who's game enough to actually do that. We've got some new bling for the tank as well. We've got a new tank, quick release monkey bones tank cap. No point putting that on there because we've got to drain the tank, take the tank pump off. But for now, because I just want to do some mock-ups, we're going to leave the tank on. And now we're going to try and put as much of the fairing on as possible. And there's still a lot to go.
Okay, so next up is the side stand, and we've got this great little pack here from Smart Moto. They've given us all of our deletes, our side stand delete, our evap delete, and also another delete. I just can't remember which delete. So it should be as simple as taking the stand off, unplugging it, plugging the delete in, and then we should be able to get our belly pan up high enough and it won't have to worry about the side stand. There you go, one stand, $150 on eBay. So 3 out of the 4 front frame mounts had actually snapped clean off. So this is my first time ever using a screw extraction tool, and it's actually super easy. New morning, fresh coffee, and I am pretty impressed with how this is starting to look. Obviously it's still got all the gaps which I need to fix, the gaps at the top just here, the gaps at the bottom of the tank, but that's okay because the next piece is I've got to put these on, and these are the Desus type fasteners, and I've never used these before. I've always used fairing clips, so this will be interesting. Now what I have already done is I've already mocked up a couple just so I can see how they're supposed to work. So I've started with this seat, and it looks like this piece here, it comes in 2 pieces. So it comes in 2 pieces like this, and then you've got to join them together with a couple of screws at the back. And then it also has, that's where the bracket goes forward and holds into this drill point here. This little rail mounts to the inside of the actual seat so that when you put the seat on, it locks in place. So I think that's pretty awesome actually. And then it's got these like pinpoints here, I guess they're like stanchions that hold the seat up as well. And that's where these little, if I took the seat off, you'd see that these little hills just here sit on top of those mounting points. So we've still got a fair bit to do. Even though it's only done 1,500 Ks and this bike is virtually brand new before it was crashed, I'm going to change the oil, change the filters, and yeah, another job done. So now I got to strip this mocked up fairing back off the bike, and I've got to be honest, the amount of times I've done this, by the end of this build, I'll be an expert, or at least close to. And now I got to put the K&N air filter in. That just goes in nice and easily. Put it into the old air filter mount and just slide it straight in. and then a fresh top up of oil, new oil filter, job done. Okay, I've managed to get this all lined up pretty good. On these ones here, I've just used clips, so fairing clips with some nice silver BMW bolts. And then I've used the actual mounts that they provide on the main sections. So here, 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 and then on the other side, I've still got one to go just down here, just by the stand piece. So I'll put that on a little bit later. But before I go any further, I've got to install this, and this is a cam tensioning sensor, or a cam chain sensor. And this cost $399 through BMW. But I jumped on eBay and I found one for a BMW i35 or 35 or i3, whatever it is, L313, for $11. So now the real problem is, how on earth am I going to get this thing installed? Because it fits on the front of the cylinder head, right up behind the fan, and it's right up on top, almost in the middle. It would have been so much easier if I actually had this when I had the exhaust off and I had the radiators off, and I could have done it all at the same time. But now, it's not going to be easy. So that's it all the way up there, right on the front of the cylinder head. God, how am I going to get something in there? I need tiny little hands. Oh, did you hear that? I think I hate it when you drop a bolt right down into the fairing. Here we go. One broken sensor. And the new one ready to go in. Sweet. What I didn't show you is that that took me an hour. Okay, so after what feels like eternity, because I actually thought this was going to be a really quick video where I just got the tank fixed and then the fairing would just slap itself right on super quick. But that's not the case. It took me ages, all up around about 3 days of just part-time, trying to get a couple of hours done every day. But it looks sensational. Like, it looks absolutely awesome. I can't believe how wicked this bike is going to look. Just wait till it gets all the other bling put on it, because up until now, all we've really been focusing on is trying to get the bike running, trying to get it actually operating as a bike. So now we can go ahead and start putting all the
sports and race components on it. So we've got a heap of stuff coming for this build. Most of it's already been ordered. The only thing I can't find is a front wheel. So if anyone has a forged BMW S1000Rr K67 front wheel, let me know. Urgently need one. But yeah, there's only a couple of things I'm slightly unhappy with, and it's a couple of little gaps. So I'm gonna have to fix these gaps before we actually go to paint. And these tabs. I'm gonna replace some of these tabs which you're using to fix this in with. I'm also not too happy with this gap just here, so I'm gonna try and reduce that gap and bring that gap in a little bit. I'm not quite sure I'm gonna do about that dent in the tank, so I think one of the options would be a nice carbon tank cover, sort of the same as what I've done on those bikes there with the carbon tank covers. I think they come up really, really nice. They look really very, very cool. And that's pretty much it for getting the bike running. We've ordered a dash, so we've got a dash coming from our mate Dave that we bought the other parts from. We've got some extra parts to finish off up here, including kill switches. All these have to be fixed in place yet, so using bolts through, I've got to drill these all into place. We're waiting on the final parts for the top triple, just for that replacement top piece just there, that little flange thing. Then we've got the new forks coming, we've got the new rear suspension coming, we've got paint and decals, we've got a tune, and heaps of other stuff. Yeah, like, subscribe, you know the drill. Thanks for watching. So I've got to be honest with you, I've always been a fan of Italian engineering and only Italian engineering. But the Germans, they've had to make me rethink that. And that's pretty much because everything I pull off this bike is a super, super high quality. The way that it's put together, the machining that's used, the quality of the actual fabrication pieces, second to none.
So originally for this episode, we had planned for a guy named Bmw to log in to my bike via my computer, but unfortunately my software went bang, and at the same time, it looks like someone in their amazing decision making had actually cut the OBD2 plug off this motorcycle, so I had to get that fixed. So we'll get back to Bmw in a later episode.
Okay, so another job done, and I actually feel like we are smashing through this build now. We're getting some of the major pieces done, and quickly as well. So next up, what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna put this tank back on. So I'm just gonna put these spaces back inside here, put the tank back on. We do still have a fuel line fixed to go, so we'll do that as well, hopefully in this video. Now we've got two things which have just come from our sponsors. And the first is this. So we've got a YSS steering damper. So Suspensions R Us, make sure you hit them up. There is a discount code in the description. And then we've got this beautiful piece of Italian machinery. The Bmw RC19 Corsa Quarter. So we're gonna put both of those on now and start transforming this bike into what it's meant to be. It's a race bike. Let's get into it. Apparently this bike is actually the race version. So you can get the S1000Rr, S1000Rr Sport, S1000Rr Race, and then the M package. Now the difference is the Race has the adjustable swing arm pivot, it has the M chain, and a few other bits and pieces to make it a bit more racy. So it's always good to know that the bike we picked up so cheap is in fact the second to top version. So there we go, look at that. How awesome does that look? Let's get it on the bike. I don't know why I sound like a news presenter today. Let's get it on the bike. Okay, so let's get this Corsa Quarter unpackaged. It looks like we've got some fresh hardware here as well in the box. So we'll probably use that hardware. Anything I don't use, I actually put it into one of these. So I've got a whole bunch of these. Like this one is just for like all my washers and tiny little screws. This one's for my slightly bigger screws. And I've got another 2 or 3 just like that, which are just for different types of fittings. And it saves me so much money when it comes to building one of these bikes. So we couldn't go much further without putting some more bling on this baby. And I mean, yes, the RC19 Corsa Quarter is bling. But next up, we've got what's gonna take this bike to the next level. And this is just the start because we've got a lot more of what's in this box down here to come. So how awesome do these look? These are beautiful twill carbon fiber wings. So the M wings, one's gonna go on each side right about there. We couldn't build one of these bikes without loading it up with carbon fiber. So we have got a massive amount of carbon fiber coming. I might try and fit it in this episode, but I'll see if it actually arrives on time. In the meantime, let's get these puppies installed. Okay, so I took a couple of photos of how it should actually look on the bike. And it looks like it sits right up near the front light. So I think this edge pretty much sits right there. So it means I'm going to actually have to join it to both the front top fairing and the side fairing. That's pretty cool. So what I think I'll do is I'll tape it in place first, just to get them both exactly the way I want them, compare them to the photos again, and then use the template on the back, which will be, because it's got the backboard there, and use that to mark out where the holes are.
Okay, so the left side actually fits, but I'm gonna have to like cut a tiny little hole because where the fairing joiner joins, it's gonna push that out too far, if you know what I mean, like that distance there. So I'm just gonna mark that and drill a hole for that fairing clip to go through so that it fits flush with the edge and holds it all in place. Now that looks sick. And I think I'm happy that I actually came further forward. So see that mark there is actually like in a straight line now. So that's just exactly where I wanted it. And it should be the same on the other side. Yep, absolutely perfect. So that was a mission and a half. What we might do now is I might put the bottom fairing back on it, put the seat back on it, and just get a feel for how the whole bike looks. So next up was a quick stop to BMW Motorrad in Brisbane. These guys helped me out with a new air duct, so fantastic. Now I can get the front of the bike finished. And then I managed to find this awesome paint shop on the north side of Brisbane called Hearts Paints, and the ladies in there helped me out something awesome with some very, very cool red Mazda Soul Red paint for this bike. I can't wait to see how this turns out. Okay, so we're back in the garage. We've got so much to do now because two things we are waiting on have just arrived. First is this, and this is the fuel, it's the bottom of the fuel line hose where it connects to the tank. So this is actually made of alloy. We got this from the States. So it pretty much replaces the plastic one on the S1K, which is prone to breaking. So we're gonna have to replace that. But before that, we have got a box of sexiness. If you're into that sort of thing, check it out. So this is our box of carbon from RPM Carbon. So let's get it opened. Okay, so there you go. We've got the swing arm covers, we've got the front guard, and we've got the tank protector. So we're gonna go ahead and actually start taking some of this other plastic off the bike now and putting the carbon on it. It's gonna be epic. freaking hot does that look? And the best part about it is that all of the carbon has the exact same weave. So RPM carbon do the actual weave exactly the same as the M carbon. So all these M carbon pieces look identical. M carbon, RPM. You wouldn't know the difference. How wicked does that look? And that is going to look smoking hot against that new color that we've got sitting down there, that deep metallic red. So deep metallic red across most of the bike, carbon across the tank, deep metallic red towards the back. Maybe we'll put some white accents back there as well. We'll put a black bottom on it, so like black or dark gray with a number plate down the bottom there, and then a number plate up here as well. But man, it is starting to come together and it is looking bonkers. So next up, what we're going to do before I put this carbon on the actual tank here is we're going to take this tank back. So I've got to take the seat off, take this back off again, because we need to install the fuel line fix. So let's get to it. Okay, the bike's stripped back down. I didn't need to show you stripping the bike down, that's pretty obvious. So here's one of two problems. This is the fuel hose. And the end of it is the remains of a piece of plastic, which is actually the T-junction on the bottom of the fuel rail. So right here, there's supposed to be a plastic, like a little nozzle, and that's supposed to join on just there, just like that. But the problem is that's snapped off, and these are prone to snapping. It's got the fuel sensor just there as well. What we need to do is replace it. Before we can do that, I need to keep this and attach it again. So I need to remove that bit of plastic that's in there. What I'm thinking of doing is using a screw extraction tool and just going in and drilling it reverse drill. And then once we've got that done, we can put this on. So this will be our replacement piece. That's the side nozzle that'll fit on. You can see the bottom there is actually threaded, so that's where the sensor will go, and Bob's your uncle, we should be fine. There we go, one piece of plastic off, and the hose is still perfect. Okay, this is turning into a much bigger job. I've managed to unplug everything, but there's these little copper like washers that clips that hold the lower fuel rail in place, and you can't actually get them off because the airbox is in the way, which means I've actually got to take the airbox off, which means I need to disconnect the loom and the ECU, I think, flip the whole thing back over, and then I should have access to the lower fuel rail, unclip all the injectors, pull it out as one piece, take the center out, replace the center, put it back in, put the airbox back on, and we should be done. But the first problem is, even doing that, I still need to get access to this here, and I can't for the life of me get this top fuel pipe off this old piece of plastic. So I'm just going to keep tooling away at this and see if I can actually get it off first. I may even just cut it because I'm not going to need it anyway. That way I can get this off. One job done. At least that came off relatively easily. Okay, change of plans. I think I've worked it out. So I've managed to actually move the whole airbox that way just by unscrewing it all. And I've noticed that that fuel rail actually has 4 screws holding it in as well. So whilst I've unclipped it, all I need to do now is get right down in there, get those screws out, and then all of a sudden, the fuel rail should just lift straight out. So there it is, all put together, O-ring each side, sensor on the bottom. Let's put it in. Okay, so there she is, all done. I must admit, it took me about 2 hours. Luckily, I didn't have to take this whole thing apart. I didn't have to take the airbox off. I just managed to manipulate pulling these out, pulled out the injectors as well, and rebuilt the whole rail and then popped the rail back in, secured it all back in place. Everything looks like it's ready to go. All the plugs are back where they should be. I've now got my two tank plugs and I've got my fuel plug. Okay, so this is the real test, because now we can actually put the tank back on, and for the first time we should be able to try and start the bike using fuel.
Okay, so we've got everything done. We've got the cam tensioner done. We've got the fuel line fixed. We've got the bike back in one piece. I'm pretty sure I've covered all my bases. I was up all night last night trying to build this bike. It's the next morning now. I haven't had much sleep. I'm tired. If I get this wrong, it's going to be an epic failure. But I'm hoping the bike is just going to start now. I can't see any reason why not, so let's try it. Cross your fingers, because this is the first time we'll be starting the bike on actual fuel. Okay, I'm just going to prime it twice, just because I want to fill up the tank. Fill up the fuel line, because obviously we put in that new fuel line. So I'll just prime it twice, that's two. Okay, here we go, here goes nothing. Cross your fingers. And it sounds awesome, but there is a problem. The throttle's not working, so there's no throttle response. It could be because of the amount of errors that are showing up on the screen. Man, it stinks in here. Absolutely stinks in here. That is so awesome. It's so good to know that I haven't bought 11. I can't believe we've gotten to this point of fixing this bike from where we started, where the bike was a complete wreck. We put a lot into this as well, so I wanted to make sure everything worked. Not just for the channel, but for you guys as well. So, thanks for watching. Next episode, we've got a heap of performance parts going on this bike, and we're going to start painting the fairing as well, because once the fairing is done, the wheels need to get done, then we need to get it dynoed and tested, and then the bike will be finished. Thanks for watching, stay tuned, like, subscribe, you know the drill. Here we go, it's episode 5, and we're about to make some huge progress, because today is all about design and paint. Let's do it. But first I've got to be upfront with you and let you know that I broke the bike. That's right, I spent far too much time trying to clear codes using my GS911 tool that somehow I've stopped the fuel pump from working and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I tried to fix it myself, took the throttle apart, couldn't fix it, took it to Moto Garage to see if we could isolate that problem. It looks like we've isolated it down to a faulty throttle hand grip switch. So we've ordered a new one of them, a new complete throttle assembly, and that should be here shortly. So now I guess it's just waiting for that and getting back into the design. So with some duct tape and my craft knife, I've managed to come up with 3 or 4 possible designs for this bike. I'm trying to stay subtle, I'm trying to stay simple, I'm trying to stay away from all those mainstream race bikes which have lots and lots of busyness to them, heaps and heaps of lines, heaps of sponsors logos. I'm trying to stay away from that. I'm trying to stay more simple, almost elegant to a degree. But let me tell you, with the S1000Rr and its natural fairing lines, that's actually quite hard. Let me show you what I mean. If you look at the S1000Rr, its natural fairing lines are not in a racy position. They're not forward facing. The majority of the time they actually face upwards instead of forward and downwards. So that's why some of my designs, I'm trying to see if I can bring that sportiness into it by pushing that line down and forward to give the impression of speed. Whereas if you look at a Ducati Panigale V4, all of the lines are actually facing forward and facing in the right direction, and even the front of the fairing itself is cut in such a way that looks racier and faster. Now I'm not saying that the S1000 is ugly in any way, but it certainly makes it harder to come up with a design which flows with the fairing. Now I could have gone with a flowing design where I had the insert parts of the fairing just filled in with white and the rest of it like a solid red. But it just wouldn't look right because the lines would be all over the shop. People would get lost and I would get destroyed on YouTube. So I think we've finally come up with a solution. This one. Leave me know your thoughts in the comments below anyway. Next step is we're going to strip this bike back down, take all these preparations off it, and then start applying the first coat. Okay, so there you go, 2 coats of primer filler. Now I've got to sand it back with 600 wet sanding. And then I get to do the design mock-up again and lay the first coat of white. We might also do a pinstripe in black, but I'm yet to decide that. I'm gonna leave it to the last minute like I do with everything and then just hope I pull it off. The color that is, yeah. Let's do it. Prepped and ready to go. So we've got white. I was gonna go with black actually, but I think I'll stick with white. So white through the center here, and you can see the line, the back, that follows white down the middle of the bike as well. So white here, that deep red color here. We've got a big white stripe here, and then we're gonna insert a little black stripe straight through it as well. We've got white at the back here on the top, that's got a decal going on it, and then we've got a white section here. And then of course down the bottom on both sides, we've got a white belly tray, just for like your race number and stuff. So I think that's gonna look pretty schmicko. Quick break from painting because, let's face it, painting drives me insane. It's just so fiddly. There's so many little things you've got to get perfect in the perfect sequence. Otherwise you waste hours and you screw it up and you have to redo it. Oh, God knows how many times I've done that. Anyway, because our new throttle, our e-throttle has just arrived from BMW. So let's get it on. Let's put it on. Put the throttle on. Oh my God, I can't even talk today. So with the e-throttle, it all comes as one piece, and the sensor, the grip hand sensor, is actually in this, and you can't take it apart. So, fingers crossed this works. So here's the first real test. This is about the third time we've tried. New throttle's on. We shouldn't have any issues at all, unless I need to go in and clear those codes first, but let's give it a go. I just spent $510 on that throttle, thinking that that was the problem. I really hope it was. I really hope I just need to clear these codes. So I better plug the computer back in, clear the codes, and see if that makes a difference. It shouldn't though. It shouldn't stop it from starting. Now I'm confused. Okay, so hopefully I just had to reset the throttle, the twist grip. Oh sweet, that's another thing done. We've cleared most of those codes. Now it might start. Let's try that again. Nope. I'm gonna have to take a minute just to think about how I'm gonna get that engine to start. It does run, it runs for about 3 to 5 seconds and then stops. I think it's got something to do with the throttle valves, but I'm gonna have to refer to my mechanic Motor Garage and see what he thinks. For now, what I'm gonna have to do is reverse all of this tape. So these have come up really good. So that, oh yeah, that is perfect. And it's nice and glossy as well. So I've got all of these pieces to do. It's a tedious task. I waited roughly, what's it been? Almost 24 hours. I've let this top coat, the 2K clear, actually harden. So now it's safe to take all this tape off, reverse the tape, and then we want to retape it off again so that I can start applying the red. So it's day 3. I've actually skipped past a lot of footage because it would just be so tedious to show you. But I'm up to the point now where I can actually fill up my paint, so I can mix my paint and I can go to town on actually putting the red on this. I've had to redo the undercoat or the primer twice because I've stuffed that up twice. I've masked, I've reverse masked. I think I'm ready to go. So let's start, let's lay down some color. So the base coat is down. It's got a real pink look to it. So it's gonna be real interesting to see what it looks like when we put the tinted clear on. The tint is what has that crystal look to it. So fingers crossed. Probably won't film this next part. effort. That took so much work. There's days that I didn't film, just doing touch-ups. I've still got some little touch-ups I need to make where I've got some overspray on the white. Wow, so next stop, I've got to get the engine checked again, try and get those electrics sorted. We've got some more performance parts going on it as well. I've got to wait for this paint to actually set for about another 2 days. Put the fairings back on the bike, so we'll do a full fairing build up with the new fairings on it. We'll do the touch up and the paint. We'll put the stickers on the fairings, so the decals on the fairings. And then we're pretty close to being ready for dyno. So I would say a couple more weeks. We've also ordered our new front wheel that's coming from Germany. So thank you once again, like, subscribe, you know the drill. Stay tuned for more.
It's not often that you get to buy a wrecked superbike of this magnitude, but that's exactly what we got. A 2022 BMW S1000Rr race package, and we've slowly brought it back from the dead over the last 4 weeks. And it's given us a fair set of challenges so far. But now is the final parts, so stay tuned. So after painting the fairings in the last episode, they came up awesome, but I still wanted to improve them. So I took them to Clean Ride Brisbane, he cut them, polished them, and now we're back to the workshop to put them on.
So you're probably wondering why I've stripped the bike down again. Well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'm nowhere near finished. Even though it looked pretty cool in the previous image, it's got a lot to do. So first thing we want to do is fix the trail on the front forks. And I've bought something very cool. Something I've never done before. I've got some inserts for the triples to offset the triple by 2 or 4 millimeters. So let's get them on, and then we've also had another awesome package arrive from Germany. So action stations. So the offsets come in two offsets. We've got a 2mm offset and a 4mm offset. We're gonna go with the 4mm. We wanna push this as far forward as possible. Now, if you look at the bottom of the triple, you can see that currently it's at a 0, it's at a middle position. So we're going to undo these 2 bolts here, slide it out. We should be able to just put the new sleeve in, put it back in, torque it down to I think 18 or 22, and that should be the bottom triple fixed. massive setback. They've actually sent me the wrong ones. So if you have a look, these two have got different diameter holes. The black one, the OEM one, the original one, fits nice and snug. This one, way too big, loose. It's obviously for the wrong bike. They've got to come from Italy. That's another 2 weeks to get it here. I've still got the bike booked in at BMW to get it diagnosed electrically. And that's another few $100s down the gurgler. But lesson learned, pay more attention when you're ordering stuff online. What a bummer. What an absolute bummer. What a massive setback too. Right, well, I guess I'm just gonna have to put it back together and we'll focus on some other bits and pieces. Man.
Okay, so here's the issue. The issue is the Robbie Moto sleeve they sent me, the adjustable offset top triple, has actually got a gap from the OEM. Well, not from the OEM, but if you look at this, you can see that gap. There should not be a gap around there. So we've contacted Robbie Moto and Omnia Racing to see if they can send us the correct top sleeve for the offset there. If they can't, then we've got another solution. A friend of mine is a fabricator. I'm gonna see if he can make me, on his CNC router, a sleeve which would go over that perfectly and tie it all in nice and snug. But let's get the bike back together now because it's time for the wheels to go on, and check this out. So this is our old wheel. Not exactly round anymore, absolutely destroyed. This is our new one. This just arrived yesterday, last night. Went over to Moto Garage and got the new tyre fitted onto that. So that's awesome. And then we've got another rear tyre sitting over here. So we'll switch out the rear as soon as we can get the bike mobile again. So let's get that done. Slight change of topic, or change of bike, I should say. I was at the track the other day and my Penny V4, my white one, this beauty here, started leaking heaps of fuel from the tank. So I took the tank off and weirdly enough, just on the lip here on both sides, it had actually cracked. So I don't know what happened since the last time I rode this bike, but it just quite literally split down the seam of the weld of the tank. So I took it to my friend who does all my welding for me, and he fixed it all up, welded both sides. So now what I'm gonna do is actually prep this tank for more paint, because the paint now looks absolutely horrible. It's been covered in fuel. I was quite lucky, to be honest, that I didn't blow up, because I'd just gone through scrutineering. Scrutineering said the bike was fine. I was pulling back into the pits to put the tire warmers back on, and then someone said to me, whoa, 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 this thing's leaking heaps of fuel. And it was just pouring out. So yeah, it must have been a pressure thing, or maybe just from the original crash, it had developed weakness in that section of the tank, and maybe the trailer ride to the track went over some bumps and knocked it loose. Who knows? But either way, it's fixed now, so I've got to get this tank prepped, get it back on the bike and get this bike running, because we're going to be on track shortly with this bike. I'm quite literally waiting for paint to dry, I stopped at Moto pick up some more performance parts for this baby. Okay, Matty, what do you got for me, man?
How are you, mate? Wow,
very well.
Have our jet prime switch.
Sweet. Awesome.
We're going to get it open.
Get rid of that blasted key. I'm not even sure I'll put that on until I actually fix the electrical issue, but at least we've got it.
Won't take it out, but yeah, it's quite
That's
nice.
cool. Start stop button, awesome.
Nice one. CNC carbon brake clutch reservoir.
Carbon, that's going to go nice with all of the other carbon on the bike. Sweet.
Our new tank grips.
Tank grips, cool. Did we go clear or black?
Black.
Black, cool, awesome.
Clears don't look the best on painted surfaces. Tend to look a little bit blue. Black obviously looks really good, and it suits the bike and your colour scheme pretty well.
Cool.
And then yeah, just all the engine colours.
All GB racing.
So they come in the kit, yeah. So
it's 4 of them.
there's 4, yeah.
Yeah, right. Most bikes are only 2, eh? So
You got the alternator cover on the double R's, the clutch cover, the secondary pulse cover, and the water pump cover.
awesome, cool, wicked. So we'll head back, get it all installed, and then the next steps. Okay, we're back in the garage. The tank is painted and it's hanging up to dry. I'm just gonna let that hang for another day or so just to harden that 2-pack clear. But we've got our Aprilia back. So our RSV4RR is back in the garage. It's just been detailed by Clean Ride Brisbane, and it is sparkly clean, looks beautiful. So we'll actually put that on the market and try and sell it. We'll get this bike running on the next couple of days, but let's focus on finishing this bike. I've got too many bikes. So let's I think we might start with putting the engine covers on. So let's unpack them and put them straight on. Okay, just a little bit of blue Loctite. We're gonna go down to 10 Newton meters on each of these. so we're on to our pièce the really cool part. And this is our carbon reservoir. So this is super lightweight, and you'd expect so from carbon, I guess. But they also give you some options. They also give you 3 different options for the drain angle at the bottom. So I've got to figure out how to get that in. I've got a special tool to do it. I don't know how I'm going to use it because I'm not that smart, but I will give it a go. And there you go. Just by using that cool little tool, that little expander tool, you can put the nipple in the bottom there, and it just expands the hole for you. I used a tiny little bit of lubricant just to let it glide in better, and it worked. Next topic. And this is precisely why I always keep everything from every build. I had this tiny little bit of tubing from one of my Ducati builds. And now look how neat we've got that, like only maybe 1.5 inches into a nice piece of carbon, RCS Corsa Quarter 19, fully adjustable. We might even take the remote adjuster off this bike here, take this off because I don't use it, and might even just put it on here as well over the other side. So that looks pretty sweet. We've got the engine covers, they're on both sides. I think we've still got to put the tank covers, and we've got to put the start stop button on, but I don't think I'll put the start stop button on until it's been to BMW and they've diagnosed the electrical problem, because it's going to be a whole lot easier for them just to turn the key every time they're testing it on their testing machine on their computer than it is to hit a button and potentially maybe think that this is one of the problems. So less variables I give them, the better it is for me, and the cheaper it is for me. Right, so let's get this fairing back on. We've got some new stickers as well, some new decals. We're gonna get them on, and then we'll get it outside and show you in the sunshine. Okay, so functionally we've done everything we can now to this bike, and we can't film when the bike's at BMW getting the electrics fixed. So that's really it for this build. We will be taking it to dyno, so I will film that in around about a month and a half, and drop that on the channel for you all to watch. But we're pretty much going to shelve this for a little bit now. It's going to sit parked with the other bikes, and we're going to move on to the next thing. So we're going to finish off our RS660 build, which is behind me. And fingers crossed we have some other new builds arriving shortly as well. So stay tuned, like, subscribe, you know the drill. Thanks for watching.